Zoe's been with her boyfriend Marcus for almost 2 years, and last week, something happened that made Zoe's heart soar. Marcus held her hand in public for the first time and brought her to a social event with his friends.
Zoe posted about it in a relationship group, calling it major progress. Some people celebrated with her. Others said, after 2 years, that's not progress, that's breadcrumbs.
Your comments help shape our content, and this week, we're tackling a question that has come up repeatedly. How do you know if you're being patient or accepting breadcrumbs?
Because there's a big difference between recognizing a different love language and rationalizing emotional unavailability.
By the end of this video, you'll have the timeline test, which is specific benchmarks to look for at 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and 2 years.
So you can see exactly where you are, and then decide if what you're experiencing is progress or self-abandonment.
This might be hard to hear, but we care about you too much to let you stay stuck. Now, in the last video, we talked about the 5 avoidant love languages to help you understand how avoidants might be showing their love differently. We covered acts of service, reliability, parallel presence, small meaningful gestures, and incremental vulnerability.
But here's what we need to talk about today. Sometimes what looks like a different love language is actually just not enough. Sometimes being patient is actually abandoning yourself. Sometimes understanding their attachment style becomes an excuse for accepting breadcrumbs.
How do you know if you're recognizing legitimate avoidant love or rationalizing emotional unavailability?
And that's where this timeline test comes in, because time reveals everything. Today, we're sharing with you the story of Zoe and Marcus. And as we do, we want you to notice if any of this sounds familiar.
Zoe met Marcus about 2 years ago. The first 6 months were incredible. Deep conversations, future talk. Marcus seemed different from Zoe's past relationships. More stable, more reliable, less dramatic.
Zoe has anxious attachment. Marcus has avoidant attachment. And for the first 6 months, that dynamic actually worked pretty well.
But then something shifted. Around the 6-month mark, Marcus started pulling back. Fewer deep talks, more surface level. I need space became a common phrase.
Zoe panicked. She pursued harder. Marcus withdrew more. Classic anxious avoidant trap.
So Zoe did what a lot of you do. She discovered attachment theory. She realized Marcus isn't mean, he's just avoidant.
Zoe started giving more space, being low pressure, adjusting her expectations, understanding Marcus's attachment style.
And over time, Marcus did start doing slightly more. While he wasn't yet saying, I love you, he was saying, I care about you. He agreed to spend the occasional weekend with Zoe rather than their usual once a week. Small gestures here and there.
Fast forward 2 years. Marcus holds Zoe's hand in public for the first time and brings her to a social event with his friends. Zoe celebrates this as major progress.
But is this progress or is it breadcrumbs? And how do you know?
That's exactly what we're going to break down, starting with what should actually be happening at each stage.
Before we do that, for those of you who are new here, I'm Tarina Terry.
And I'm Joel Terry, and this is Da Vinci. We're both licensed therapists. I bring the science.
And I bring the heart. Vinci brings the purrs.
Now we're going to show you exactly what these differences look like in real situations so you can clearly see what you're dealing with.
All right, so here's what most relationship advice gets wrong. They tell you to be patient without giving you any timeline for what reasonable patience actually looks like.
So we're going to give you that timeline. We're going to continue using Zoe and Marcus's relationship to show you what breadcrumbs look like, and then contrast it with what healthy progress actually looks like at each stage.
And at each stage, we're going to give you the red flags to watch for, because the earlier you can spot these patterns, the sooner you can make an informed decision about your relationship.
Let's start at 3 months. Here's what Zoe and Marcus's relationship looked like at this stage.
The connection was amazing. Deep conversations, future talk. But when Zoe tried to define the relationship, Marcus said, whoa, let's take it slow, without explaining what that meant.
Zoe was doing all of the pursuing, all of the texting first, all of the making plans. Marcus was responsive, but never initiated. When Zoe tried to introduce Marcus to her friends, he said he wasn't ready yet. No timeline was given.
And here's the key thing Zoe missed. Marcus never once acknowledged his avoidant attachment. He never said, I struggle with closeness, or I'm working on this. He just kept saying, this is just how I am.
So here are the red flags at 3 months. Red flag number 1, vague about the future with no clear timeline. Red flag number 2, you're doing all of the pursuing and emotional labor. Red flag number 3, not ready to integrate you into their life, their friends and family, with no explanation of when that might change. And red flag number 4, no acknowledgement of their attachment patterns or any awareness they need to grow.
Now, let's contrast that with what healthy progress looks like at 3 months with an avoidant partner who's actually doing their work.
At 3 months in a healthy relationship with someone working on avoidant attachment, you'd see some emotional sharing happening. Not constant, but increasing.
The relationship is defined. You both know what you are to each other. Maybe not using labels like girlfriend, boyfriend yet, but there's clarity about exclusivity and intention.
You're meeting each other's friends. Maybe not family yet, but there's movement towards integration.
Regular communication is established, not necessarily multiple texts throughout the day, but a consistent pattern that you can count on.
And here's the crucial one. They have awareness of their attachment style. They might say, I know I pull back sometimes. I'm working on staying present.
See the difference? In the healthy version, there's awareness, effort, and forward movement, even if it's slow. In the breadcrumb version, there's vagueness, one-sided effort, and no acknowledgement of pattern.
If you're at the 3 month mark and seeing more red flags than healthy signs, drop a comment below saying 3 months. We see you. Now let's look at 6 months. This is when Zoe started noticing bigger problems.
Multi-day silences had become normal. Marcus would go 2-3 days without meaningful contact. When Zoe brought it up, Marcus would say, you knew I needed space.
Any attempt at deeper conversation was shut down. Marcus would physically leave the room or change the subject.
There was still no clear commitment. Zoe wasn't sure if Marcus actually considered her his girlfriend or felt they were just seeing each other.
Zoe had started reading everything about avoidant attachment. She could explain Marcus's nervous system better than he could. But Marcus, he wasn't reading anything, not going to therapy, not doing any self-work.
So here are the red flags at 6 months. Red flag number 5. Multi-day silence is still normal with no explanation or repair. Red flag number 6. They avoid any emotional or vulnerable conversation. Red flag number 7. Still no clear commitment or relationship clarity. And red flag number 8. You're the only one learning about attachment. They're doing no self-work.
Now here's what healthy looks like at 6 months.
Consistent communication, not necessarily constant, but reliable. If they need space, they communicate it. Even if it's just a simple, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need time alone tonight, but I'll call you tomorrow.
You can have conflict and repair it. It might be awkward, the repair might not be perfect, but there's acknowledgement when harm happens and then attempts to fix it.
Emotional check-ins are starting to emerge. Maybe once a week they can say, I'm feeling anxious about work, or I'm happy we're doing this together.
You've met family, or there's a plan to. It might not have happened yet, but there's a timeline.
And critically, both of you are learning about each other's attachment styles. They're reading articles you send, or they're in therapy, or at least acknowledging, I know I do this, and I'm trying to do better.
That's the difference. Healthy progress means both people are growing. Breadcrumbs mean only you're doing the work.
At 1 year, Zoe was starting to feel desperate. Let's look at what was happening.
Marcus still hadn't said, I love you. He'd say, I care about you, or you know you're important to me, but never love.
Zoe was celebrating tiny gestures as huge wins. Marcus sent her a thoughtful text, and Zoe told all her friends. Marcus suggested a weekend trip, and Zoe saw it as major progress.
But when Zoe's friends expressed concern about the relationship, she found herself making excuses. You don't understand. Marcus is avoidant. This is how he shows love.
But when she was being honest with herself, looking back over the previous 6 months, Zoe couldn't identify any real change. Same patterns, same distance, same lack of emotional intimacy.
Zoe couldn't remember the last time Marcus initiated emotional connection. It was always Zoe bringing up feelings, future, or relationship check ins.
So here are the red flags at 1 year. Red flag number 9, you're celebrating baseline behaviors as major victories. Red flag number 10, looking back 6 months, you see no measurable change. Red flag number 11, friends and family are expressing concern. Red flag number 12, they never initiate emotional intimacy. It's always you. And red flag number 13, you're making excuses and feeling defensive about the relationship.
Now let's look at healthy at 1 year.
Regular I love you or emotional equivalent expression. For an avoidant partner working on themselves, this might not be daily, but it's present and genuine.
You're integrated into each other's lives. You've met family. You know their friends. You're part of their world.
You're working on issues together. When problems come up, you both engage. It might be hard, but you're both at the table.
Both of you are in therapy or doing active self-work. This doesn't mean couples therapy necessarily, but it means both people are committed to their own growth.
And here's the key. When you look back 6 months, you can clearly see trajectory. They're sharing more than they used to. They're initiating more than they used to. They're moving toward you emotionally, not staying frozen.
That's progress, not perfection, but clear, measurable movement forward. Which brings us to 2 years, where Zoe is now.
After almost 2 years together, Marcus held Zoe's hand in public for the first time, and Zoe celebrated this as a milestone.
Think about that for a moment. 2 years, and hand-holding in public is considered progress.
Zoe was exhausted from being patient. She'd adjusted everything, her expectations, her needs, her whole sense of self to accommodate Marcus's avoidance.
When Zoe looked back over the entire 2 years, the progress was microscopic. A few small gestures, slightly more consistent presence, but no real emotional intimacy, no vulnerability, no future planning.
And Zoe had become completely isolated from her support system. Her friends had stopped asking about Marcus because Zoe got so defensive. She'd lost herself trying to be the perfect, low-pressure partner.
And Marcus still hadn't done any work on himself. No therapy, no reading, no acknowledgement that his patterns were harming their relationship.
So here are the red flags at 2 years. Red flag number 14. Baseline relationship milestones, like hand-holding, are celebrated as huge progress. Red flag number 15. You're exhausted from being patient. Red flag number 16. Virtually no change when looking back over the full relationship. Red flag number 17. You've isolated yourself from family and friends who expressed concern. And red flag number 18. They've done zero work on their attachment. No therapy, no progress, and no effort.
Now here's what healthy looks like at 2 years.
Deep emotional intimacy is established. Not perfect, not constant, but regular emotional connection, vulnerability, and mutual support.
Clear future planning. You're talking about the next year, 5 years, life together. There are concrete plans, not vague someday statements.
Mutual vulnerability is normal, not rare. They can share fears, needs, and feelings without shutting down every time.
Both partners have grown significantly. When you look back 2 years, both of you are more secure, more connected, more emotionally available than when you had started.
The relationship feels like partnership, not a project. You're not constantly managing their emotions, walking on eggshells, or doing all the emotional labor.
That's what healthy looks like after 2 years with an avoidant partner who's committed to growth.
If what you're experiencing looks more like Zoe and Marcus's relationship, we need to talk about that.
Before we go further, we want to make sure you have support for this. This week's member worksheet includes the complete timeline test you can work through.
It has space to track what you're actually seeing at your relationship stage, the red flags checklist, and reflection questions to help you get honest with yourself about where you are.
If you're not a member yet, click the join button below. At Tier 2, Inner Circle Growth, you get worksheets like this for every video.
And it's a way you can support us and our channel if what we're doing has been helping you.
Now, let's talk about what this timeline test is really showing us.
So here's the crucial distinction we need to make. The difference between Zoe and Marcus's relationship and a healthy avoidant relationship isn't about pace. It's about trajectory and reciprocity.
Let me explain what that means. In a healthy relationship with an avoidant partner, progress might be slow, but there's a clear trajectory. They're moving towards you. They're growing. You can track the change.
And there's reciprocity. Both people are doing the work. Both people are learning. Both people are stretching themselves.
In Zoe and Marcus's relationship, there is no trajectory. Marcus isn't moving towards Zoe. He's staying exactly the same. Maybe giving slightly more when Zoe threatens to leave, but then sliding back.
And there's no reciprocity. Zoe is doing all the work, all the learning, all the understanding, all the accommodating. Marcus is doing nothing.
So the question isn't how slow is too slow. The question is there movement? Is there mutual effort?
Let me give you a different example. I worked with a client who was also dating an avoidant partner. At 3 months, her partner was uncomfortable with emotional talk. At 6 months, he began sharing his feelings about once a week. And at 18 months, he could have vulnerability hangovers, but he could recover and reconnect.
That's slow, even glacial for an anxious partner who wants everything now. But it's also real progress, clear trajectory, and mutual effort. She was working on her anxious attachment while he worked on his avoidance.
Do you see the difference? Slow progress is okay when both people are growing. Stagnation isn't okay, no matter how much you understand their attachment style.
All right, let's talk about the science of why breadcrumbs are so effective at keeping people stuck. This pattern taps into what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. B.F. Skinner's research showed that when rewards come unpredictably and infrequently, they actually create stronger attachment than consistent rewards do. This is the same principle that makes gambling so addictive. In relationships, when your partner gives you occasional moments of deep connection after periods of distance, your brain releases dopamine. Your nervous system literally becomes hooked on these unpredictable moments of connection. And this is especially powerful for anxious attachment. Your attachment system is already hypervigilant, constantly scanning for signs of connection or disconnection. When you get those rare moments of closeness, your brain interprets it as, see, they do love me. I just need to be more patient. But here's what research tells us about actual attachment change. It requires 18 to 24 months of consistent therapy, self-reflection, and practice. And you should see measurable progress in 3 to 6 month increments. If you're not seeing the progress, if your partner isn't doing that work, they're not slowly changing. They're staying exactly the same while you adjust everything about yourself to accept less.
So let's get to the heart of it. If you saw yourself in Zoe's story, I want you to know something. Your patience isn't the problem. Your compassion isn't the problem. Your ability to understand their attachment system isn't the problem. The problem is that you're doing all the work, and you've convinced yourself that that's what love looks like. But here's the truth. Understanding someone's attachment style should help you see them more clearly. It shouldn't help you accept less. You can recognize that vulnerability is hard for them and still need them to try. You can have compassion for their childhood wounds and still require them to do their own healing work. You can be patient when progress is slow and refuse to accept no progress. Because here's what I need you to hear. After 2 years, hand-holding in public should not be a milestone. After 1 year, I care about you should not be your standard for emotional expression. Or even worse, you know I care about you. After 6 months, multi-day silences should not be normal. And these aren't high expectations. These are baseline relationship needs. If your partner is telling you through their actions, not their words, that even baseline needs are too much to ask, you're not being patient. You're abandoning yourself. You deserve someone who is doing their work, not someone who's waiting for you to need less so they never have to grow. Listen, I know you love them. I know you see their potential, and I know you believe that they can change. But love without willingness is just hope. And hope doesn't build a relationship. Mutual effort does. So the question isn't, how much longer should I wait? The question is, am I seeing trajectory and reciprocity, or am I seeing stagnation and one-sided effort? You deserve more than breadcrumbs. And knowing that doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you also love yourself.
So let's find out what Zoe chose.
She had a conversation with Marcus. She said, I love you. I understand your attachment style, but I need you to be actively working on it. And that means therapy. That means self-reflection. That means both of us growing.
And she set a timeline, 3 months to see Marcus be engaged in weekly therapy and show consistent effort. Not perfection, just effort.
Because Zoe realized she wasn't being patient. She was abandoning herself. She wasn't recognizing a love language. She was accepting breadcrumbs.
And giving Marcus a timeline wasn't an ultimatum. It was a boundary of self-respect. It was saying, I deserve a partner who's willing to grow with me.
We'll let you know what happened with Zoe and Marcus in next week's video about what to do when you've set a boundary and need to follow through.
But for now, if you're in Zoe's position, use the timeline test. Be honest about what you're seeing and decide if you're witnessing progress or accepting breadcrumbs.
So join us again next week. We're going to show you what happened when the 3 months were up. Did Marcus start therapy? Did he show real effort? And what did Zoe do when she had to decide? Should I stay or should I go now?
Because a lot of you are exactly where Zoe was. You've set a timeline. You've asked for change. And now you're watching to see if it's actually happening.
We're going to give you the tools to assess real change versus performative change. And we're going to talk about what it looks like to honor yourself when the answer isn't what you hoped for.
If you haven't taken our free attachment style assessment yet, the link is in the description.
And leave a comment telling us what stage you're at. And are you seeing progress or breadcrumbs? I'll be in the comments connecting with you, and your honesty might help someone else who is struggling with the same question.
Subscribe and take care of your heart.
And remember, you're not alone. We're all in this
Together.
together.